Welcome to The Visionary Entrepreneur. My name is Dane Dunlap.
And I'm Nicholas Vasily.
This is a podcast where we interview entrepreneurs about their story and visions for the future. We're here to create a space to network and to learn from each other's experiences. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of The Visionary Entrepreneur. Today we have Vasily with us today. I've known Vas through tennis. I met him 5 years ago. He played tennis at College of Charleston, and he has an amazing story. He actually, from scratch, ended up being the top-rated seller in his category of social media marketing on Fiverr, which, for those of you who don't know, was the #1 freelancing website. And freelancing is basically providing services for people online. So whether it's building your social media or building an app, they do provide tons of services. So he built that up and actually had a 6-figure income while being on the tennis team, while managing school through Fiverr. So really amazing how he built that up. And then he continued doing that and leveraged it. And now he started his own video production company where he works with celebrities. So he's really done amazing stuff and at such a young age. So Vas, thanks so much for being on with us.
Thanks, Dane. Thanks, Nick. It was awesome introduction. It's a really pleasure to be here as well to talk with you guys. I know we met a long time ago when I was playing college year as well, and it's just funny how it's a small world, and eventually we're doing this podcast episode now. So yeah, I'm glad to be here. Excited to talk about good points today. So let's get started.
It's kind of funny, actually. I told you, I think 5 years ago, that I think we might work together in the future, and 5 years later, look at this in a different way than I could have ever imagined. So that's awesome.
So you started in college and being so successful in college at the beginning. I'm sure you didn't see the light at the end of the tunnel a couple times, and people for sure questions, oh, what is this guy doing on social media? Is this real? Is this guy, doing some sketchy shit? Like, how do you deal with doubters or people who ask questions? How do you keep going into the right path?
I mean, for sure, when you're in college, obviously, for a lot of people is maybe they go there to obviously get education, but at the same time, they meet new people, they're having fun. Some people go like me and you guys played for a team as well. I'm coming from Russia originally, and when I was coming to US, my goal was to obviously get the most out of it. So I started to, once I got to university, I started to really network with people. I saw a lot of people like creating apps. They're doing something, they're hustling. And I just got inspired because I think this is probably the best time while in college. You can learn a lot of things and you don't really have like expenses. I was just looking for ways I can make money online. And probably one of the best ways is just to go with the freelancing websites and try and see what other people are doing. So a lot of my, guys, friends, they were looking at me like, why you're doing this? Like, just enjoy and just have fun. But I knew that I had to do it because obviously, like after 4 years, I didn't want to end up just be coaching someone because my parents have invested money when I was young. So yeah, people were saying that why you're doing this Fiverr thing, like stop doing Fiverr. But at the end, I think they realized that actually, I was probably doing the right things. So as soon as I start seeing results, for example, at first it started very low. Like my goal was to, let's say, afford a ticket to go back home and then be back in US, because obviously my parents were covering a lot of expenses, so I was able to do that. I was really happy about that. Obviously my parents saw something is working, what I'm doing, and eventually I started to making more money. I started to covering my apartment as well, and that's basically pushed me to what I was doing. And at the same time I was really enjoying the process. So it's not that something I did for money, but I was actually enjoying. I was really at the beginning surprised that I was able to help people, let's say with their Instagram, getting more network. Some people I work, they met their future wife just because of my service. It's kind of funny how this service brought a lot of new connections with people. And eventually I think everything I did paid off.
Yeah, I would say it paid off because making 6 figures while being on a tennis team I think that's evidence enough to people that doubted you that, you can make it in anything, and you worked hard and you hustled for it. So kind of you talked about how inspired you were by people who were, building apps and hustling and stuff like that. And when I met you 5 years ago, I was actually really inspired by that because when I spoke to you, you were kind of just a ball full of ideas. We had a guest on our podcast 2 weeks ago, James Altucher, and he talked about how to be an idea machine and how to use that as currency for your life. And speaking to you, I was inspired because you were constantly coming up with these creative ways of making money here and there that I didn't think about and not a lot of people are thinking about. So being in that mindset, has that helped you? And do you think that being in that mindset can help other people?
Mindset is everything. At the end of the day, you have to, look at yourself and understand what you actually like doing, what you enjoy doing. And I think the people around you are very important. For me, it was kind of tough at the beginning because I was not maybe very like not friendlier, but like a typical, maybe like people were kind of like thinking I'm weird or something like that. But I think it's important to just understand what you want exactly from, let's say, being at university or from life, and just stick to that. Obviously, you have to be doing something different in order, like it's not easy to, let's say, just start making tomorrow a lot of money. You have to build a system, you have to plan things, and you have to basically distract from other people, like, let's say, maybe if people are bringing you in the wrong mindset, you have to obviously try to eliminate those kind of people and really understand what you want from life.
Yeah, I agree.
So, you're a social media expert. I mean, it's not a secret that people pay you a ton of money to handle social media and advertise organically or whatever. What do you think is the number one thing that people do wrong on social media? Entrepreneurs, startups do wrong.
Yeah, I mean, first thing, the social media is the same as a podcast. It's a long-term game. I mean, you have to building your. It could be either your business brand or it could be your personal brand, right? So of course, the number one thing, the biggest mistake is people try to rush to build their, all. They're like, oh, I need a lot of people following me. I need a lot of, followers. But the problem is that they don't actually know their message. They don't know like what they could be valuable for. And I think that's the biggest thing that they need to understand, that you have to understand who are, how you can help other people with who, with what you can help. You have to understand your niche. You have to understand why people will be following you, not just because you're like cool, but because you're bringing a lot of value. So it's very important to understand that the message you want to try to bring to your audience. And then the things are, it's a long-term game, so you have to be prepared for that. Every platform is different. Let's say YouTube right now, it's a very very long-term thing, because eventually you have to be very niching down towards your audience. You have to, not, let's say, if you're in a fitness, you can't be just showing workouts, but you have to be very very specific in what kind of workouts. Maybe, I don't know, it's I don't know, yoga, only related to yoga, or maybe it's something different like a CrossFit. So it's all about niching down. It's all about being patient as well, because you never know when this, like, which day everything could change, because in one day maybe your video goes viral. Maybe a lot of people like it, so you have to just be prepared for long term, and not try to rush for doing a shortcut for getting more and more people.
I agree. We spoke to a marketing legend, Jeff Himmel. We had him on the podcast, and he said the exact same thing, which is you need to focus on content. Everyone wants audience retention and attention, but if you don't have content and providing value, then it really doesn't matter how much you advertise. So for someone like Nick and I think it's awesome. If we were to have the mindset of, okay, we're going to try to get thousands of followers in the first couple months, makes no sense. But our goal is, let's provide as much value as we can so people want to come back.
Yeah, it's important. Like, for example, I am right now at your podcast. Once you release a podcast, I'm happy to share with my audience on my Instagram. You'll probably get some people go and check it out as well. Maybe you'll get some more listeners. So it's all about being authentic as well, not try to do any tricky ways to gain people, and eventually you never know when this day is going to happen, that you're suddenly going to start getting more and more people. So yeah,
Hmm.
100%.
Okay, and What do you think? Obviously, those are some of the mistakes people rush, but what do you think the most important thing, if you were to say someone is starting a brand from scratch or an entrepreneur using social media, what would you say the most important element is to do?
I mean, the biggest thing, I would say the most important thing is actually documenting your journey. So, what I mean by that is probably you heard like one of my idols is Gary Vaynerchuk. He's like
Hmm.
all about documenting content. And I got inspired by him that when I started creating my own content. And I can say now, I'm obviously still in the process. I'm still learning a lot of things. I'm obviously make mistakes. But I try to show this, on Instagram. I try to kind of like basically being real with people. I'm not trying to fake anything, and that's the important. You have to even though if you're not maybe at the level you want, you still have to show that to the people. You still have to say, for example, hey guys, I learned this new thing today, I'm going to try to launch it tomorrow, let's see how it goes. Like, I'm building a course, for
Yeah.
example, this is what I need to do. So it's important to document this journey, document what you're doing, and other people are going to learn a lot from that, and you're going to learn as well. And eventually you'll make mistakes. That's totally fine to make mistakes. We'll make mistakes, but then everyone learns from them. You learn, your audience as well will learn. So it's important just documenting, and really know your message. That's, I will say, ultimate goal, because you can't be just showing random things. You have to
Right.
understand why you're showing it, and so
Well,
yeah.
so where's the line there? When does it get to spam between documenting your journey and then what's too much?
Well, it's a good question, because you honestly, I cannot exactly answer like the like where is the borderline. Like, I'm not a big fan of showing like too much of my personal life, like what's, I don't know, let's say purchases I make, right?
Hmm.
Things like that. I'm not really a big fan of that. Some people actually show that, and they attract obviously certain type of audience. So it's just more about you. What are you comfortable and not comfortable showing? If you actually enjoy showing when you, let's say, you bought a new car, you want to show your audience, it's obviously, it's not a maybe bad thing, but if you want it, you should do. The most important is to just actually, I would say, don't do things which you're not comfortable, and you're just basically going to be very
You're,
demotivated
you're
and
not
upset.
authentic, you're not
Try
being genuine.
try be someone else. Um,
Yeah, that's a good point.
something something we ask all our guests is, what is your vision of the future for social media? Where do you see the big things happening in social media? Where do you see the future of advertising on social media? Is it
Yeah.
going to be crazy competitive? How do you navigate through that?
Yeah, I think, I mean, obviously social media is changing as well. You see TikTok,
Yeah.
it's just booming. A lot of people are getting on TikTok. But I can say, I mean, a few points about TikTok. Obviously, TikTok has a lot of young audience, right? So if you're seeing that everyone is getting on TikTok, I'm not a fan of TikTok. Why? Because it's a very young audience right now, and we don't know what's going to happen like in 6 months. Maybe it's the same when Snapchat and Instagram were fighting a few years back, and then eventually Instagram released stories. They tried to put the filters, and Snapchat died. And Snapchat was already pretty big. TikTok is not. I mean, it's huge, but it's still, it's I would say it's like a risky game to go all in on TikTok. So the future, I mean, you just have to be ready for maybe like a new platform to arrive. So for example, TikTok arrived, and a lot of people jumped on it, and they became like successful. And I would say a lot of like bloggers, a lot of people where they have like a younger audience, they became successful, right? So just be ready for platforms to change, platforms to come. I don't think Facebook and Instagram are going to be like outsiders in the next few years. I think they're going to be still dominating. So it's definitely the platforms that we should look up for. We should try to build our personal brand. YouTube is the same. It's kind of interesting to see what YouTube is going to be releasing in the coming year too, because they have released stories as well. So as you can see, a lot of platforms, they have similar features now, because they know, for example, let's say Instagram stories is extremely popular, and YouTube knows that. So YouTube is trying to also release some kind of similar features. So obviously it's going to be growing. I think voice is going to be growing even maybe more, because right now a lot of people are starting podcasts. I also consume much more voice content, when I'm like running on a treadmill or just working out. I'm listening to podcasts, and I think this is just definitely the future. Maybe we're going to see more social medias related to voice. So yeah, I think obviously things gonna be changing, but I don't think like Instagram or Facebook gonna be
Hmm.
moving, on the second plan.
What I've noticed recently actually is the importance of building a genuine brand, because I've noticed that a lot of companies now are, if you, let's say we're focused on products, you now have a blog, you now have a podcast, you now are on all platforms and you're providing value in so many different ways. So I feel like nowadays it's super important to build this over encompassing brand where you can be seen and provide value in so many different ways. I think in the past maybe people would choose a couple distribution channels and just stick to that, but I think now people provide a really like a lifestyle that people want to connect to.
It's not only about like if you're an entrepreneur or business, it's also for people who are working for companies. If they're focusing on building their social, they don't need to like obviously maybe show a lot of things, but right now companies are looking to hire people who have also some sort of social media presence, maybe not like an extremely big presence, but at least some kind of, because that presence will help the company to obviously continue to build authentic. And that's important as well. Like if you're trying to get a job, for example, it's a good idea to work on your social media too, because then some companies are going to choose that person because he had a good social media presence, and that could be also benefit the company rather than someone who have no social media at all. So this is
Yeah.
a definitely
It's
important as
definitely
well.
it's definitely a skill that we you have to learn in today's day and age. I was going to ask you a little bit. We had a guest on our podcast, James Altucher, and spoke a lot about how he thinks that traditional jobs are kind of on the way out and that a lot of contracting stuff is going to be happening in the future. And obviously, you worked with Fiverr and freelancing, and that's kind of right now the epitome of freelancing and contract work. So, what do you think about the future of that industry and people working as entrepreneurs kind of for themselves in a contracting manner?
Yeah, I can say, it's obviously going to be changing a lot. From my experience, I was building a team in Russia when I came back from US. I was building, basically getting an office, getting people in the office. And that was like a new experience for me a couple of years ago. So I learned a lot of lessons from that. And then at the same time, I was building a remote team in the Philippines where I decided to just travel to Philippines. I had one of my VAs. She was helping me when I was still in college, and then eventually I said to her, her name is Nina. I was like, Nina, do you think maybe we can build a team in the Philippines? Because she was working amazing. I was really amazed how good she was working with me. Basically, we didn't really had any like video calls when I was in college working. I was just basically sending her tasks, explaining. Sometimes I'll just like recording a video and send it to her, and she understood everything perfectly. So we haven't really been communicating that like close. She was understanding everything perfectly, and I realized that this is an incredible opportunity, because obviously when you have team in the office, I just had that experience. You come in the office, you have people like obviously asking you questions, team that there's like problems arise, things arise, like it's basically a different vibe. I feel like if you're building a remote team, obviously it's not easy to build it at first, because you have to trust people. You have to, let's say if you're doing this in the Philippines, you have to go there because it's important to establish that trust, so that your team member will also trust you and basically go with you. And when I was in Russia in the office, I just worried a lot of things are happening, and I was thinking that I'm kind of wasting as well a lot of time in those kind of things. So now I pretty much most of my team is remote, and it's been working amazingly. So I think it's definitely the future. I see companies as well, they're looking to hire people on a contracting basis. So instead of basically bring them in the company and like cover all of those expenses, they rather go and just work with a freelancer. They agree on the rate which the freelancer wants to get paid, and they basically working like it's a full-time employee,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I think this is going to be definitely happening. I know a lot of people, founders, who are having their like SaaS businesses and IT businesses, and they have remote teams. They have remote team in US as well. They have like several freelancers who are basically working full time, but they just get paid based on like a contract. And that's it. I think this is definitely an interesting way because as a, being a freelancer, it allows you for more freedom. So you're able to obviously spend time, with your family, travel, basically have your kind of your own schedule. And for the company, it's great too because they're obviously saving money. They are, efficiently. If they're able to manage the team, it's just a win-win situation. So I think, yeah, as you've seen, for example, after all of this pandemic, Twitter is gonna like keep their employees on the remote basis forever. I saw
Yeah.
that like the article it talked about. So yeah, I mean, we see it's changing. So maybe in a few years there will be no traditional jobs. Who knows? But if you look at the graph from like a freelancing, even in US, it's just increasing so much. So I
Yeah.
expect, yeah, definitely
I
going to
mean, I
be
think
improving.
the ability to pick what jobs you do, how you do it, who you do it with, and the time that you do it, I think that's invaluable. I think that's going to be really big in the future.
I mean, that was amazing. Thanks for having. Thank you for being here, Vasily.
Always a pleasure to get inspired by you every time.